Serious, what is a seemingly normal photo that has a disturbing backstory? If you're British, and of a certain age, you'll probably be as haunted by this grainy image as I am. I still distinctly remember the first time I saw it. At the time, James Bulger was only missing, and it was regarded as a cause for optimism that he was last seen with other children. The truth was far worse than anyone imagined, and still inspires a visceral reaction unlike any other crime in my lifetime. That photo breaks my heart and enrages me simultaneously. The things that happened to poor child. Yep, could have done without reading that Wikipedia article for the rest of my life. Edit, I hate that I commented on this because now I keep getting replied to and it brings the story into my head again. This is a photo of Tyler Hadley holding a cup in a party at his house. Just before this party he had murdered his mother and father and hid their bodies in the master bedroom. Murder of Blake and Mary Jo Hadley, Tyler Hadley's killer party. The boy holding the free hug sign that went viral for hugging a cop. Ultimately he was being used by his abusive adoptive mother for online social clout, and eventually she murdered their whole family by driving their car off of a cliff. Edit, I understand that this link treats his mothers rather lightly, as several commenters have pointed out. The Broken Hearts podcast is an excellent deep dive into this horrible tragedy. This one hit me like a punch in the gut when it came out that it was this boy and his siblings that perished. John Edwards Robinson. This photo. John Edwards Robinson, yellow sweater, is holding baby Tiffany, whose mother he murdered the day before. He gave baby Tiffany to his brother, saying she was adopted. His brother, along with Tiffany, didn't find out the truth for 15 years. I remember moving to a small suburb town of Raymore, Missouri, just 15 minutes south of Kansas City. It was just a couple months after moving there they found John Robinson's storage unit with 55-gallon drums with the corpses inside. I would ride my bicycle by them every day. This photo creeps me out. John Lennon signed an autograph for his killer, Mark Chapman, just a few hours before the murder and then asked him, "Is that all?" Chapman even had a gun on him at the time. That story is so bananas. After Chapman came back and killed him, he lay down next to his copy of Catcher in the Rye, fully expecting to be absorbed into the book. After he was arrested and the cops were asking him why he killed Lennon, he basically said, "I don't know." Edit, a few edits to what I said. He may have not laid down by his book, but he did expect to essentially become Holden Caulfield and would end up in the Catcher in the Rye. Also, he said he killed Lennon for a variety of reasons. He was Christian and Lennon said the Beatles were bigger than Jesus and imagined there's no heaven, thought he was a phony, wanted to become famous by killing someone famous, wanted to save the children by eliminating a bad influence, etc. But when he was arrested and sitting in the cop car, he was kind of in shock that the whole thing didn't go down as he expected and couldn't answer the question of why, as everyone was freaking out, and even said he was a Beatles fan afterwards. He was extremely mentally ill and constantly hallucinated tiny people that he would rule over and that he put in charge of his budget. He was also doing a bunch of acid. One crazy mother ducker. He had imaginary little people that lived in his walls that he was the god of. Apparently at one point they were running his budget, really well, surprisingly. None of that is made up. Edit, hail yourselves. Edit 2, episodes 315 and 316. The imaginary people were made up when he was a kid and carried on well into adulthood. He was a cruel god to them too. Whenever he was upset about something he'd lash out and kill several of them. Again, he even imagined this as an adult. At one point he stopped his interactions with them for a period of time, a few years I think, then they came back like a year before he shot Lennon. During this time they went from imaginary people who worshipped him and never questioned his decisions to imaginary people running a democratic parliament, I guess. Like they'd vote and discuss among themselves or with him on whatever was happening, finances, trips, whether he should kill John Lennon. And this is all in his head. He's having to discuss democratically with his imaginary people, and when he was considering killing Lennon they actually were telling him not to. Why did he do it if his parliament voted against it? Did he have War Measures Act enabled? The happy photo of the father and daughter taken moments before the Omagh bombing. n.m.wikipedia.org. So after looking into that photo, the father and daughter survived but the photographer didn't. How baffling it is they survived the explosion. I guess they walked away from the car just in time, otherwise I can't see how can you survive standing this close to explosion. This picture, America.cgtn.com content uploads 201712 Alive Andy's plane crash.05.jpg was taking of a group of people whose plane crashed in the Andes. They were eventually saved but had to resort to cannibalism to survive. They are all smiling in the photo, but it becomes eerie when you realize the human spine to the right of them in the picture edit. As many have pointed out, there is a movie based on this event called Alive. The most dug up thing about this story, besides their diet, is that they were able to get a radio from their plane working. They were not able to radio out, but they had perfect reception for incoming channels. So they had to listen for months as the news reported them still missing in their failing search efforts, until they eventually had to listen to them call off the search. The best part of the story is how they ended up choosing a few of them to walk out of the mountains to get themselves rescued. From the documentary I watched on YouTube, one of them volunteered to go because he didn't want to eat his mother and sister. They brought human meat with them for the journey though, stuffed it into a pair of socks. Edit, sorry for the late update, but here is the video link u2.b. Nando Parado. He lost both his mother and sister on the mountain and was driven to return to his father. Met the guy. Super down to earth and a pleasure to talk to. Massive petrolhead as well. He later drove a Matra in the historic 24 Hours of Le Mans and still has his own TV show devoted to motorsports. The toughest guy I've ever spoken to. I've posted this before, a politician at an election rally. Last photo of Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. Taken moments before a suicide bomber, wearing orange flowers, lower left, also on the inset, top left, hugged him, bent down and touched his feet and detonated her bomb. Edit, last 2 frames of the film. iconicphotos.files.wordpress.com. Edit 2, Aditana dude, thanks for the correction. To clarify, she didn't actually hug him. She wore explosives around her waist which were designed to detonate when she bent down to touch his feet, which is done as a sign of respect in India. There is a photo of an American volcanologist sitting down while studying volcanic activity at Mount St. Helens. Photo, upload.wikimedia.org article. n.m.wikipedia.org. 13 hours after the photograph was taken, on May 18, 1980, the volcano erupted and killed 57 people including the volcanologist. He seemed so happy to be present, looks like the smile of pride from doing his job. https://mjix.ranker.com user noamg 501061002117900 original 1002117900 photo U1 autoformat fitcrop with 375q60 DPR3. Apparently this is a photo of a 4-year-old girl's footprints before she drowned in a pond. This story is legit. The Larimer County Coroner's Office said Thursday that the cause of death was drowning, but hypothermia was also a significant condition. According to the coroner's report, Naomi fell into the pond around 5 p.m. and was found some time later. On Thursday, some questioned the pond's placement, which is a few yards down a sloped hill from the Loveland Sports Park playground. The pond is literally a couple steps from the playground. It is extremely difficult to watch multiple toddlers preschoolers at that park, as there are pillars and other obstructions in the way of the view. I moved here 312 years ago, and have been saying that pond is a disaster waiting to happen since the beginning. It is a stupid place for a pond, an irresponsible place, a poorly thought out place and a dangerous place. Such a tragedy, Tara Wilson wrote to the Coloradoan on Facebook. This really threw me off. Not only did I live in that county not long ago, I lived within walking distance of that park. Had no idea this ever happened. Fuyu, there's no pond anymore. Two brothers smiling, Kevin and Bart Whitaker. Hours later, after arriving home from dinner, Bart killed Kevin and his mother after conspiring with a friend. He tried to kill his father as well, but he survived. It's a horrible story. I don't know what became of Bart though, all I know is that his father somehow found the courage to forgive him. If I recall correctly, Bart had flunked out of college but his parents still believed he was attending and even giving him money for tuition, which he was blowing on booze, etc. They were out to dinner to celebrate his graduation. He didn't even pull the trigger, he got his friend to do it. Bart also told the cops the shooter was black to keep suspicion away from his friend. I have read from someone who was friends with the brothers that he was appled by his friends lying. They talked about how Bart wanted to go to Mexico. Why did he even kill his family in the first place? Why did he have to lie like that? And why did he put his friend in this mess as well? #X200B, I'm just so confused and disgusted from the fact that there are people who are willing to kill their families. I believe he wanted to get the money and estate, they were a pretty well-off family. I honestly think he got his friend involved so he could absolve himself of the actual action. It's ridiculous.